Touching story presents. HOA tried to steal my farm. They forgot who controls their water. When I discovered that my HOA had secretly sold 1,700 acres of my family's farmland, I knew I had to fight back. But instead of just going to court, I decided to remind them of one crucial fact. I control their water supply. The HOA's first move. The morning was perfect for planting, clear skies, and a light breeze. I was on my tractor before sunrise, just like my grandfather had taught me. That's when my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. When I finally checked my messages, I nearly choked on my sandwich. 10 missed calls from neighbors. 3 voicemails from my cousin. 1 email from the HOA. Subject line, violation notice. I opened it. They claimed my tractor noise violated their peaceful enjoyment, and that my chicken coops created offensive odors that affected property values. They gave me 48 hours to shut down all farming operations or face a $200 per day fine. I laughed out loud. They had no authority over my land. The HOA president shows up. The next morning, I was greeted by the sound of a car door slamming. A woman in a crisp white pantsuit marched across my front yard, clipboard in hand, flanked by 2 HOA board members. "Mr. Walker," she called. "I'm Deborah Williams, president of Oak Ridge Estates HOA. We need to discuss your violations." I crossed my arms. "There's nothing to discuss. Your HOA has no jurisdiction over my land." Deborah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Actually, according to the county zoning board, your agricultural exemption expired last year. That means your land is now subject to HOA regulations." That caught me off guard. My property tax bills hadn't changed. "My family has farmed this land for over 100 years, I said. "No HOA can suddenly claim authority over it." Her smile turned cold. "Times change, Mr. Walker. We have standards now." She handed me a cease and desist order. Then they walked away. But I wasn't about to back down. Something was off. I called my cousin Tom, who lived in Oak Ridge Estates and served on the town council. "They've been planning this for months," he warned. "Deborah's been having private meetings with developers. She's changing meeting minutes after they're approved." That night, I did some digging through county records. And that's when I found it. My agricultural exemption was still valid for another 5 years. Deborah had lied. For the next week, I ignored their letters and fines. Then came the noise complaints to the sheriff. "Mike, look," said Sheriff Davis, an old high school friend. "I know this is ridiculous, but they're filing complaints every single day. They've even started a petition to classify your farm as a public nuisance." "Dave," I said, "my family has been feeding this county for generations. What's really going on?" He hesitated. "I shouldn't tell you this, but the HOA is pushing for a massive development project, and it involves your land." That's when I saw them. Strangers in suits walking my eastern fields, taking pictures and measurements. I jumped in my truck and drove straight toward them. The shocking discovery. "Can I help you?" I called out. "You're trespassing." A tall man in a designer suit turned. "I'm James Miller with Westview Development Corporation. We're surveying the land for planning purposes." I frowned. "Planning for what? This is my farm." Miller looked confused. "According to our paperwork, Westview purchased 1,700 acres from Oak Ridge Estates 3 weeks ago. Construction begins next month." My heart stopped. "That's impossible. I never sold my land." He showed me official documents, survey maps with county stamps, and a signature that looked exactly like mine. But I never signed anything. I raced home and pulled out my property deeds from the safe. Everything looked fine, but something wasn't right. I called the county recorder's office. "Sir, there's an ownership division filing from 6 weeks ago," the clerk said. "According to our records, 1,700 acres were transferred to Oak Ridge Estates Community Trust. You only own 300 acres now." My hands shook. "That's impossible. I never signed any transfer." "Sir, the documents have your signature. Do you want me to email you copies?" When I opened the file, I stared at my own forged signature. That's when I saw her. Deborah, sitting in her luxury SUV, parked at the edge of my property, watching me. When she saw me looking, she smiled and waved. I had less than a month before bulldozers arrived. And that's when I remembered one very important thing. Who controls their water supply? The water rights play. My grandfather had signed an agreement in 1943, allowing the county to build a reservoir on our land. one that supplied water to the entire community, including Oak Ridge Estates. But there was a catch. Agricultural use takes priority. I still owned the main water control valve. I made 3 calls. My lawyer, the local newspaper, the state water authority. 2 days later, Oak Ridge Estates woke up with no running water. Deborah called me 17 times before I answered. "What did you do?" she screamed. I calmly buttered my toast. "Nothing illegal. I just prioritized my farm's water supply, as per the original agreement." By that evening, the HOA was in chaos. Developers threatened to sue. Homeowners revolted. And the county opened an investigation into fraud. A week later, the judge ruled in my favor. I got my land back. Deborah, removed from the HOA. The developers, gone. And Oak Ridge Estates permanently changed their bylaws to protect local farms. Justice served. That night, as I walked my land, I realized they tried to steal my farm. But instead, they reminded an entire community why it mattered. The aftermath, HOA's revenge attempt. After Deborah's downfall and the court ruling in my favor, I thought the battle was over. I was wrong. The HOA, desperate to regain control, started plotting new ways to come after me. But what they didn't realize, I was always one step ahead. The HOA's new strategy. With Deborah gone, the new HOA president, Mark Simmons, decided to continue her crusade. He wasn't as reckless as Deborah. He was calculating. First, they tried to restrict access to my property. The HOA petitioned the county to reclassify my farm access road as a private street, claiming it was dangerous for residential traffic. I got wind of this plan through my cousin Tom, who still attended HOA meetings. "Mark thinks if he controls your access road, he can make your farm inoperable," Tom warned. Mark had no idea who he was dealing with. How I shut it down. I drove straight to the county zoning office and showed them the original land records. My farm's right-of-way agreement had been in place for over 70 years. The county official looked up and laughed. "They can petition all they want," he said. "Your access road is legally protected. We'll reject this immediately." That was strike one for the HOA. Their next move, false environmental complaints. When the road trick didn't work, the HOA got craftier. They started flooding the county environmental department with complaints about my farm. Unregulated pesticide use, illegal waste disposal, livestock creating health hazards. I knew exactly what they were doing. So I made one phone call to State Agricultural Inspector Lisa Moreno, a close family friend. She showed up the next morning, clipboard in hand. After a thorough inspection, she filed her report. The Walker Farm is in full compliance with all state agricultural regulations. 0 violations. Then she personally called the HOA and told them that filing false environmental reports could lead to criminal charges. That was strike 2. The HOA tries a final power move. Realizing they were running out of options, the HOA tried one last trick. They sent a cease and desist letter claiming my farm activities were damaging community aesthetics and violating a newly created HOA rule about unsightly properties. I laughed. They really thought I was going to fold. How I took them down for good. Instead of just ignoring the letter, I escalated. I filed a lawsuit against the HOA for harassment and unlawful interference with my business. I exposed their history of fraud to local media, ensuring public pressure was on my side. I requested a formal state audit of the HOA's finances, knowing full well they had mismanaged funds. Within a month, the HOA board was in chaos. Mark resigned under pressure. The county permanently barred the HOA from interfering with agricultural properties. And the final nail in the coffin? The state audit found $50,000 in misallocated HOA funds, and the remaining board members were held personally liable. The HOA was dismantled entirely within 6 months. The sweet taste of victory. As I stood on my farm, watching the last Oak Ridge Estates HOA sign being taken down, I knew I had won. They tried everything to take me down, but in the end, they destroyed themselves. Thank you for watching Touching Story. If this story moved you,